emissions should be the first to support vulnerable developing nations with financing and technology. The process and mechanisms for accessing climate finance from developed countries remain sophisticated. Financial resources are dispersed and allocated through numerous funds and banking structures, which I believe does not contribute to their efficient and equitable distribution.
Жашыл каржылоону топтоого жеке сектордун ресурстарын көбүрөөк тартуубуз керек деп ойлойм. Анткени жеке сектор көптөгөн өлкөлөрдө экономиканын негизги кыймылдаткычы болуп саналат. Аларсыз өлкөлөр жашылга өтүүнү камсыздай албайт. Мен ишенем, инновациялык механизмдердин жана инвестициялык куралдардын түзүлүшү, климаттын өзгөрүшүнө ыңгайлашуу жана анын кесепеттерин жумшартууга багытталган туруктуу долбоорлорду колдоо үчүн каржылык ресурстарды тартууга өбөлгө түзөт.
We must engage the private sector and leverage private resources to accumulate climate finance, as the private sector is a primary driver of the economy in many countries. Without their involvement, countries will not be able to ensure a green transition. I am convinced that the creation of the innovative mechanisms and investment tools will help attract financial resources to support sustainable projects focused on climate adaptation and mitigation.
Урматтуу катышуучулар, Кыргызстан жоготуулар жана зыянттар фонду ишке киришин тездетүүнү колдойт. Бул фонддон каржылоо механизмдерин түзүүдө бардык өлкөлөрдүн, анын ичинде тоолуу өнүгүп жаткан мамлекеттердин кызыкчылыктарын эске алуу маанилүү. Биздин өлкө максаттуу жана натыйжалуу каржылык колдоо көрсөтүү, акыркы технологияларды кайтарымсыз негизде берүү, ошондой эле тышкы карызды жашыл экономикага алмаштыруу механизмдерин түзүү үчүн демилгелерди колдойт.
Kyrgyzstan advocates for the rapid operational launch of the Loss and Damage Fund. It is crucial that the financing mechanisms developed for this fund take into account the interest of all countries, including developing mountainous nations. Our country supports the provision of targeted and effective financial support and the transfer of the latest technologies on a grant basis, as well as the establishment of mechanisms for debt for nature swaps.
Тоолуу өлкөлөргө чоң жардам болмок. Учурда Кыргызстанда Бириккен Улуттар Уюму менен биргеликте экология жана туруктуу тоо өнүгүү долбоорлорун каржылай турган климаттык траст фондун түзүү боюнча иштер жүрүп жатат. Бул фонддун ишине кызыккан өлкөлөрдү катышууга чакырам. Жыйынтыктап айтканда, биз биргелешкен аракет аркылуу гана биздин балдарыбыздын жана келечек муундарыбыздын тынчтыгы жана бакубаттуулугу үчүн климаттын өзгөрүшүнө каршы күрөшө аларыбызды белгилеп кетким келет. Көңүл бурганыңыздар үчүн рахмат.
I would like to emphasize that even a potential swap of interest payments on external debt for climate projects would significantly assist developing mountainous countries. Currently, Kyrgyzstan, in cooperation with the United Nations, is working to establish a climate trust fund, which will finance projects in the fields of environmental and sustainable mountain development. I invite interested countries to participate in the activities of this fund. In conclusion, I would like to know that only through joint efforts can we combat climate change and help limit global warming on the benefit for peace, prosperity of our future generations and children. Thank you very much for your attention.
Now the Honorable Foreign Minister of Azerbaijan is requested to share his views.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister Muhammad Shehbaz Sharif, Your Excellency President Rahmon, Your Excellency President Japarov, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Bangladesh, Nigeria, Chad, and most recently Spain, Pakistan is no stranger to these challenges. The 2022 floods drew the world's attention to the incredible devastation that can be caused by climate change, affecting thousands and causing tens of billions in damages and losses. In this context, Pakistan's leadership, including as chair of the G77 in 2022, was integral to the historic arrangement establishing the Loss and Damage Fund in Sharm el-Sheikh. Here in Baku, we stand at a similarly pivotal moment. Rising temperatures are bringing more frequent and intense disasters, threatening lives and livelihoods and disrupting economic stability globally. Tackling this threat and contributing to global climate change action is what drove us to host and preside over COP29. The COP29 presidency aims to enhance ambition and enable action, with climate finance as our top priority. Progress along these two pillars is integral to keeping 1.5 within reach. This requires available, accessible, and affordable climate finance that takes into account the needs and priorities of developing countries. Esteemed colleagues, climate finance is a critical factor for meeting our collective climate goals. I cannot underscore enough the importance of sending the right signals to the world by endorsing a high-ambition COP29 outcome package on finance. Agreeing a fair and ambitious new collective quantified goal, adequate to the urgency and scale of the problem, is our top negotiating priority. The new goal must not only be quantitatively sound, but must also strengthen the quality of finance and be supported by critical enablers such as transparency and enhanced access. We are aware of the existing barriers and ongoing challenges faced by developing country parties in accessing climate finance, and that our current global finance structure is often not aligned to meet the critical needs, especially of the most vulnerable countries. We must address these challenges to ensure that finance flows in a timely manner. The accessibility and quality of finance is as important as the total size of the goal. We are confident that together we can find solutions to address all these challenges here in Baku. Let me be clear, no party or institution can combat climate change alone. We need multilateral and multi-stakeholder solutions, strong partnerships and alliances to effectively address climate change and scale up resources for transformation change. I want to encourage you to leverage the insights of our discussion today into further deliberations. We must take every opportunity to drive momentum and convergence we need to make COP29 a success. Ladies and gentlemen, guided by the call in solidarity for a green world, the COP29 presidency will spare no effort to act as a bridge between parties and foster a collaborative spirit to tackle climate challenges. With solidarity and ambition, we have an opportunity to take a much-needed step in transforming the global climate finance agenda. I thank you.
Now the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of National Economy of the Republic of Kazakhstan is requested to share his comments.
COP29 के मौके पर पाकिस्तान की मेज़बानी में क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस गोल में इस कॉन्फ्रेंस मुतादिद आलमी रहनुमा इसमें शरीक हैं। वज़ीर आज़म मोहम्मद शहबाज शरीफ इसकी सदारत कर रहे हैं और
пакистанскую сторону за организацию данного круглого стола. Хочу отметить, что Республика Казахстан вносит свой активный вклад по вопросам защиты климата, снижения вредных выбросов в атмосферу. Казахстан активно развивает зеленую энергетику. Сегодня на полях данного саммита мы подписали 3 соглашения, предусматривающие инвестиции со стороны международных инвесторов в зеленую энергетику Казахстана. Общим объемом инвестиций более $3 миллиардов США. Также хочу отметить.
नाज़रीन, काज़ाकिस्तान के नायब वज़ीर आज़म इज़हार ख्याल कर रहे हैं। COP29 के मौके पर पाकिस्तान की मेज़बानी में इस वक्त क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस गोलमेज कॉन्फ्रेंस जारी है। मुतादिद आलमी रहनुमा इसमें शरीक हैं। वज़ीर आज़म मोहम्मद शहबाज शरीफ इसकी सदारत कर रहे हैं। अपने इफ्तिताही खिताब में वज़ीर आज़म का कहना था कि माहौलियाती तब्दीली के हवाले से UN का जो फ्रेमवर्क है उस पर अमल दरामद किया जाना बेहद ज़रूरी है। ख़ास तौर पर वो ममालिक जो कि माहौलियाती तब्दीली से बहुत मुतासर हो रहे हैं। तरक्की पजीर ममालिक इससे बुरी तरह मुतासर हो रहे हैं। डोनर ममालिक को अपने वादे याद दिलाते हुए वज़ीर आज़म का कहना था कि डोनर ममालिक को इस सिलसिले में किए गए वादों को पूरा करना चाहिए और कर्ज के हवाले से तरक्की पजीर ममालिक के लिए आसानियाँ पैदा करने की ज़रूरत है। पाकिस्तान 2 मरतबा सैलाब से बुरी तरह मुतासर हुआ है। वज़ीर आज़म ने इज़हार ख्याल किया पाकिस्तान की नुमाइंदगी की। इसके अलावा आपको बताएं तो ताजिकिस्तान के सदर इमाम अली रहमान का भी कहना था कि मौसमियाती तब्दीलियों के वकू पजीर होने से दुनिया का इस वक्त जो दर्ज हरारत है वो बढ़ता जा रहा है। तरक्की पजीर ममालिक के लिए मौसमियाती तब्दीली एक बहुत बड़ा मसला है। तरक्की याफ्ता ममालिक को इस अहम मसले की तरफ फिलफौर तवज्जो देने की नाज़रीन, काज़ाकिस्तान के नायब वज़ीर आज़म ने खिताब किया है। COP29 के मौके पर पाकिस्तान की मेज़बानी में ये गोलमेज कॉन्फ्रेंस जारी है। क्लाइमेट चेंज के हवाले से मुतादिद आलमी रहनुमा इसमें शरीक हैं और इज़हार ख्याल कर रहे हैं। वज़ीर आज़म ने भी इफ्तिताही खिताब किया, जिसके बाद ताजिकिस्तान के सदर इमाम अली रहमान ने भी खिताब किया और इस मसले की तरफ जो है वो दुनिया की तवज्जो मबजूल कराई है। किर्गिज़स्तान के सदर
बिस्मिल्लाह। Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As the impact of environmental disasters and climate change continues to escalate, the role of climate finance has never become more crucial. At the Islamic Development Bank, our commitment to climate action is unwavering. Over the last 5 years, we have consistently directed significant resources towards climate finance, with an average of 50% being dedicated to climate adaptation. In 2023 alone, the bank achieved 46% of our total approvals for climate action. At COP27, the Arab Coordination Group has collectively committed to allocate at least $24 billion of climate finance, including $13 billion from the Islamic Development Bank alone. And that is for the years 2023-2030. I am happy to report that the Islamic Development Bank has already approved $5.5 billion in critical climate financing, underscoring our dedication to low carbon and climate resilient initiatives. At COP28, the bank committed to critically address adaptation needs in fragile states and conflict settings by financing at least $1 billion over 3 years from 2024. Indeed, the bank co-financed with an amount of 180 million the Mohman Dam and hydropower project in Pakistan. The project will add 800 megawatts to the Water and Power Development Authority's capacity, generate about 2,862 gigawatt annually, supply potable water to 2 million people in Peshawar, and support irrigation and agriculture. This is in addition to the $200 million for the Sindh flood emergency housing reconstruction project, aimed at supporting the affected communities of the devastating floods in 2022 by providing much-needed climate-resilient housing facilities for over 150,000 families in Sindh through our financing. The Islamic Development Bank leverages Islamic debt market resources for climate action using innovative financial instruments such as green and sustainable sukuk. The bank additionally supports regulatory frameworks for green sukuk in its member countries and is exploring climate-related thematic sukuk issuance. As countries are increasingly looking at enhancing climate action through country platforms, the Islamic Development Bank is ready to support this process. In Pakistan, the bank will explore enabling country platforms for the water, energy, and food nexus. The Islamic Development Bank remains committed to supporting its member countries in their climate and development goals. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you. Yeah.
شكرا جزيلا. أنا مسلم جدا يعني.
Now I request Secretary General of V20 to please share his comments.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Prime Minister Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, I am delighted to join you for this crucial event on the big issues at this Conference of the Parties, climate finance. The Climate Vulnerable Forum is 70 of the world's most climate vulnerable countries. And for us, finance is the difference between becoming climate resilient and becoming climate refugees. It is that star. It is particularly appropriate that this discussion is being led by Pakistan, a much valued CVF member, which has been taking an even more visible and important leadership role. Prime Minister, I am extremely grateful that you and Pakistan has taken leadership has decided to take leadership in climate issues that, as you mentioned, are so linked to debt and international finance. Prime Minister, as you pointed out, most of climate vulnerable countries are heavily debt-ridden. We pay more than 30% of government revenue, typically more than 30% of government revenue on debt repayment. And on top of that, Prime Minister, as you pointed out, we pay another 40% on adaptation. This leaves very little room for our countries to attend for healthcare, education, and our development needs. I would, Prime Minister, particularly like to mention the dynamism of your Environment Minister, Romina. She has worked with the Climate Vulnerable Forum, especially in the work of realizing the Global Shield benefits and for Pakistan and other CVF countries. Prime Minister, I will also like to mention Hamza, who is our regional director that works for the Climate Vulnerable Forum. It could not be clear how important this is for a country which saw 30 million displaced, as you just heard, during the devastating flood of 2022. The Prime Minister of Pakistan is leading the world in ensuring that the right to a clean and a healthy environment is real. Prime Minister, you have recently written that into your constitution in, I think, Article 9A. I would also like to highlight the increasingly beneficial and strong relationship between the Climate Vulnerable Forum, V20, and Pakistan, as we partner with the Ministry of Finance in creating a climate prosperity plan for the country. The CPP is a low-carbon development blueprint for how the nation will transit from climate vulnerability to climate resilience and prosperity. Of course, delivering the CPPs and the climate prosperity agenda overall depends more than anything else on climate finance. That is why the theme of this event is so crucial and timely. It is time to reform the international financial architecture and make debt work for climate. Prime Minister, you are very correct in stressing this point. This is once again a finance COP, and we need a finance deal that fully meets the needs of our climate vulnerable countries. Our collective voices are critical as we forge our path towards climate prosperity. Prime Minister, before I end, I was fortunate enough to work with your brother as the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and I am sure Pakistan and the Climate Vulnerable Forum would be benefiting from your leadership. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Prime Minister has to leave because of another commitment. So our Senator Sherry Rahman and Coordinator to the Prime Minister, Ma'am Rumina, will continue the dialogue.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it has been very kind of you to participate in this very important event on our invitation, and I'm extremely grateful to all of you for your very valuable suggestions, which will go a long way in mitigating climate impacts through effective implementation of all those goals which have been discussed, decided, agreed upon in previous COP meetings. I would like to sum up today's wonderful discussion as follows. Number one, we should fulfill financial obligation and commitments which have been made over the period of time by global community. Strengthen spirit of multilateralism, and climate financing must not, I repeat, must not add to the burden of developing economies, loans and borrowings. And we need to double the adaptation financing from the present level, and loss and damage funds must be enhanced and directed towards resilient infrastructure and other pressing needs. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, before we part to meet again, let me say in no uncertain terms that together we can forge a path that not only meets the targets of the Paris Agreement, but also strengthens the legacy of multilateralism for generations to come. I once again thank you all for honoring us, and like to thank my team, which has done a commendable job to hold this very successful event. Thank you and God bless you.
नाज़रीन, पाकिस्तान की जानिब से मुनक़िदा क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस गोल में इस कॉन्फ्रेंस का इनेकाद पाकिस्तान ने इस